Today we're going to be building a simple FAQ slider, and we're going to use just a little bit of JQuery and JavaScript, some HTML, and just a little bit of CSS. So let me show you the finished product, what it'll look like. So very simple. We just have some questions, and we can click on a question and it will reveal that answer for that particular question. We can have hover events to make these open and close, but we're just using clicks right now. So let's get started. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it FAQ. I'll just call it FAQ. And we need to create our file structure, so of course we need our HTML file, which I'm going to call index.html, and then we're going to need our JQuery file, which will be a JavaScript, so I'm going to call that jQuery.js. Instead of using a Google CDN or some other CDN, we're actually going to include the actual file because we're working on our local host. And I know sometimes Chrome has issues with using CDNs on local hosts. And the last thing we need is a style sheet. So I'm going to create a new text document and call that style.css. Alright, so if we open up our index file, obviously there's nothing there. So I'm going to open this, and I'm using Notepad++, which is a great editor for simple web projects like this. I also have the FTP plugin over here, but we're not going to be using that. So the first thing I'm going to do is just create a structure. We're going to use the HTML5 doc type, and we'll put our main HTML tags, head, body tags, and we want to close the HTML. Alright, and we'll give this a title. We'll just say FAQ slider. Alright, so the basic document structure. If we reload this, we can now see the title change. So the first thing I want to do is add the HTML, and all we have for HTML basically is an unordered list. So I'm going to put a little tab indent in here and open up a unordered list tag and close that. And then we're going to have a couple lists. We have li, and I'm going to give this a class of q for question. And then we're going to have a li with a class of a for answer. Okay, li, and we'll just say here is a question. Here is a question 1, and then we'll just put something here. We'll say this is the answer to the question. So the content here isn't important. You can put absolutely whatever you want, but I'm going to copy these. I'm going to about 5 or 6 of them, and we'll just change the number in the question. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Alright, so that's basically all we're going to have for our HTML. We have a li tag, which is a question, and then the li tag, which is an answer. Okay, so if we save that and we go and look, we just have a simple unordered list. So the next thing I want to do is style this thing. So in the head tag, I'm going to actually just include, I'm going to do a link rel style sheet, and we're going to point that The style sheet is going to be located in the same folder, so we'll just put style.css, and we want type. Type is text/CSS. Alright, so if we go to that file, that's not it. Where's the file, the folder we just created? Alright, there it is. So we want to open up style CSS, and let's just give this a test. We'll say body and display none, just to see if it's working, if it's connected right. Alright, so it's working, so we can get rid of that. So for the body, we are going to have a width of 500 pixels, and we want margin auto because we want it set in the middle, and then we want to align the text to the center. Okay, so that's the body. Next I want to style just all the li tags, and I just want to take off the bullet, so we're going to say list style none. Next we want the answer list, so li.a, and we want to have no margin, and we want a padding of excuse me, a padding of 1 on the top and bottom and 0 on the right and left. Okay, so li.q, which is the questions. We have a few styles we want to add here. First of all, we want to make the cursor a pointer, just so the user knows that they should be clicking on it. We're going to set the font weight to bold. We are going to set the font size to let's say 1.5 and the line height will be set to 2 and we will give it a background of gray, and then finally a border that is 1 pixel. Oops, sorry, 1 pixel, and it's going to be dark gray, and it's going to be solid. And then the last thing I want to add is a class of hide, and this is how we're going to hide the answers. Okay, so this class is just going to be display none. Alright, so that looks good from what I can see. So if we save that and go back and look at our actually, you know what we want to do? We want this here to be border bottom. We don't want a border around the whole thing. Okay, so now we can see all our answers, which obviously we don't want, but we can see that the styling is complete. The questions have the dark gray and the large font, so that's what we want. So the next thing we want to do is to just add the jQuery, and what I'm going to do is actually download jQuery. And you can use jQuery 1 or 2. I'm going to use the latest version of 1, which is 1.10.2. So I'm just going to copy all of it, and I'm going to go into my jQuery.js file that we created and just paste all that. Save that, and then we don't have to touch that again. So here we want to, of course, include it. So we're going to open up a script tag, src equals jQuery.js, and we'll say type equals text / JavaScript, and then we need a closing script tag. Alright, so now that should be working fine. Now let's open up the console just to make sure, and reload, and we're getting no errors, so I assume that jQuery is being loaded fine. Alright, so now for the actual jQuery, we're going to open up some script tags, and you definitely want to make sure that these script tags are opened under the inclusion of the jQuery file. This won't work if you have your script tags up here, so just make sure of that. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to make it so this loads after the DOM, after the entire document loads. So we do that with the $ document.ready, and we're going to do a function. This is a self-invoking function. Alright, so what we're saying here is when the document is ready, we want to call this function, which right now does nothing. We're going to add what we want it to do now once the document's loaded. So what I'm going to do is use a selector. One second, let me just... Alright, so in jQuery we use the $ and then some parentheses and quotes, and inside that we can put any selector that we want. For now, what I want to do is grab all the list elements that have a class of A. So all I have to put in here is li.a, just like as if we were styling a CSS, adding some CSS to it. Alright, so what I want to do is I want to hide all the answers. If we look at our page, you can see we don't want all these answers showing. So we can do that by adding the class called hide that's set to display none. So let's do that. Let's do .add class, and inside here we want the name of the class, which is hide. Alright, so if I save that and then we reload this, oh, I must have did something wrong. Let's see, document ready, li.a, .add class hide. Oh, we forgot to put the semicolon at the end here. Alright, so that should work. Or not. Not sure what's going on here. Make sure the jQuery is there. Yep. Hide. You guys probably see it before I do. Oh, we actually have parentheses here instead of curly braces. Okay, I feel like an idiot. Alright, so now we can see that all of our answers are hidden. Now we don't want this. If we look at our original, that's not the original. If we look at our original document or script, you can see when we open it, the first answer is showing. So that's what we want to do here. We want to get the first answer to show. And we can do that using the filter function or filter action. So we want to say, instead of just doing this add class here, we want to add filter. Okay, so in here is what we want. In here is what we want to add the hide class to, and that is to all of the answers except the first one. And we can do that using the nth child. So we can say nth child parentheses and then n plus 4. So if we save that, that's not right. Filter nth child I'm sorry, we need to have a colon before the nth. Alright, so now you can see the first one is shown. And this is a little hard to explain, but what we're doing here with nth child, what we're doing is we're going to the parent of this selector. Okay, so the parent of this li class A is the ul tag. Okay, and what we're doing is we want to choose after the fourth element from the parent. Okay, so we have the parent and then we want the fourth down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is where it starts. This is where that add class hide is going to start. And it's going to do it from here on. So from here on, anything with li class A is going to have the hide class applied to it. So that leaves this first one open so we can see it. I know that might be a little tough to wrap your head around. I'd suggest doing some research on nth child and some of the other pseudo classes and stuff like that. But that's how we get that effect. So the next thing we want to do is make it so that when we click on these questions, they slide up and we can see the answer. And we can do that if we just go down here and we want to grab the ul class, the ul element, and we want to do dot on click. We could also just do dot click here and as opposed to dot on and then click, but I prefer to use on because that's actually how it's used in the JQuery file. If you look in the file, even if you use dot click, it actually is using the dot on function. So dot click, and then the next parameter is what we want to click on, and that is the li.q element. That's the question. So we want to click on the questions for something to happen, and that something is going to be a self-calling function. Alright, so what this is saying right here is that when we click on a question, we want this function to run, which is nothing right now. We're going to add to this right now. So we want to say this, referring to the li.q that we're clicking on, dot next. And the dot next is basically just the next element. So when we click on the li class q, we want the next, which is the li class A. Alright, and this is called chaining. We're going to go from this to dot next, and then here we're going to say dot slide down. So this is chaining. It's basically dot syntax. So slide down, and that takes a parameter of the speed we want, which we'll say 200. Alright, okay, so now we want the siblings of li.a, we want those to slide up at the same speed, 200. Okay, and you can see when we chain like this, we don't need a semicolon at the end of every statement. Alright, so now let's test this out. I'm going to save this and reload. We have no errors in the console, which is good. I click on a question and the answer slides up, or the question slides up. And you can see I can go back, and if we get rid of this siblings here, we'll get a different effect. It doesn't stay. The siblings need to also move down. Alright, so that's a very simple FAQ slider. You can see we only have a few lines of jQuery here, but very easy. I think it's a nice little script for a beginner. I'll be creating some other jQuery tutorials as well, maybe a little more in-depth than this. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'd appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks.